So, Elise, how do you recommend addressing supernatural or paranormal phenomena with children?
Boy, that's a great question. Kids are already there. I mean, you're there. I mean, we have memories of being a kid. We have imaginary friends. Sometimes they're just made up. But I think most times they're really seeing stuff. Kids are very guarded. There's an astrological being, for lack of better words, called Chiron. Chiron protects you up until your first kind of your first Saturn return. I'm not sure that's right, or Chiron return. But as a child, you're protected, your protective mechanisms. And Chiron was in mythology, and he was real, but of course now it's mythology, a centaur. And centaurs were on Atlantis. They did exist. They were part of the experimentation, the evil things of that time where animal people were created. They were miserable, miserable human beings and animals. It was awful. But he was the wounded healer. He was a great healer, but he had a wound in his hip and he couldn't heal himself, but he could heal everybody else. But Chiron also protects children. So I think the coolest thing is when your kid comes up and, what are you doing over there? Oh, I'm playing with George. And who's George? Well, this. Most parents are just, they accept that that's kid stuff. I doubt that George is a demon from the depths of hell. George is usually a discarnate astral entity, a fairy, a gnome, or an animal spirit, whatever. And I think tolerance and patience is the best way to address it and to allow the child their space and to work it out. Now, on that said, if the child is disturbed and upset by something that it is seeing or interacting with, you might want to find out more about that. Maybe they're having dreams that aren't good. Maybe they're upset about a kid at school and they've projected it onto this. So, as a parent, especially women, just use your intuition, your wonderful spider senses. But I think the main thing is to allow that joy of kids because kids see stuff. I mean, they're really good at it. They're excellent at this. And we lose that. Most people lose it. I didn't lose it because it was part of my work, and my parents are so wonderful about just letting me be whatever I was. But we lose it because we have to attend to the physical world. And as our attenuation to the five physical senses becomes more acute, we do lose part of that. So it's an icky as well as a good thing that happens.
That's so very true. I'm Newborns are like the most divine beings I've ever met. I'm always in awe at the presence of babies. And we do lose it the older we get. So I think what you're saying is maybe we don't have to address things with our children. We just have to listen to them and maybe believe them a little bit more.
I think so. And if you have a kid that's a medium, psychically attuned, a lot of them are coming in now as with seventh ray becomes more apparent. Um, and it's not just because the seventh ray is because it's more available, but you might have to teach the child a meditation technique. One thing you can do if kids are afraid of going to sleep at night, I saw this on Dead Files. Told a parent to do this with their child to give them a little power symbol. And the power symbol is a stuffed toy or a little thing they can hold, they take to bed with them, and they have empowered that to help them to be a warrior with them. Because if you are a budding medium, let me tell you, it's rough. You will see and hear and feel and intuit things that are not in the physical world, but you're being trained, and hopefully, you get protection from that from your parents or people that understand that and that can help you. But it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. As we evolve as a race of beings, that will become more and more normal. And I think once the mystery schools open up, people that are that race structure and that have those abilities will be guided and helped more. But that's not now. Clearly.
Right. And I imagine it would be much easier and less fearful for children with gifts if it was a normalized thing, that even though other people weren't like them, that they were all right just the way they were.
Yeah, and your family will get used to you and you to them. Even for adults, I'll give you an example. My husband, now, if you can imagine living with a retired JSOC operator, this is the tip of the spear, cream of the cream. And he has learned to be very tolerant and a bit interested in the woo woo that I do. Here's what happened this morning. I told my husband, I said, I met this woman the other day and had coffee with her, and I'm not sure she's real stable emotionally. And he said, well, that's good that you knew that. And then he said, what are you doing today? And I said, I'm putting earrings on my gargoyle statues. Okay. Okay. So that can be construed as, why the hell are you doing that? But he understands this is part of my playtime. And I also, this morning was a big morning up here at Delta West. I said, Tom, when you go into our bathroom with all the plants in there, if you see Harold, don't squish him. Now, my husband knows that I protect bugs. So up here in Montana, there was, those little stink bug things that crawl all over the walls outside. Well, there was one in my plants last August. And I named him Harold. And I every now and then I'll find Harold on the floor and I put him back on the plant and tell him to stay there, pour a little water in the plant for Harold. So Tom said, Zoli, it's not just Harold. There's probably quite a few in there. And I said, well, yes, George died yesterday. Now, you have to understand that this guy, for him to deal with something like that is is PhD level self-control. But he finds it delightful. It's not harmful. Now, kids do the same thing. Why have I maintained that joy? It is a blessing and a grace that I have. My parents never said, oh, you're crazy. And that's not true. They're like, yeah, we'll go back out and talk to the fairies, the whatever would they say. They were very playful. My parents were just amazing. So I would suggest with children, learn the tolerance of a retired JSOC operator with a medium wife.
That's an amazing story. And I love how he tolerates your playfulness, because we all need more of that joy.
Well, I think it comes and goes, and we addressed on the podcast yesterday that this is not a constant thing. I was just pulling out of a 2-day period of just piss off. I mean, I've been cranky and I'm not like that. I thought, why am I so upset? So I did an I Ching reading and I draw the same thing all the time when I get in this mood called the marrying maiden. And that I Ching number has to do with you have responsibilities, stay with it. When you are a maiden and you married, so to speak, especially in old China, oh, you have restrictions and responsibilities. And it's best to stay connected. It's like the judgment or the emperor card in tarot. Quit trying to rush your rush. Calm down, stay focused on your work, and quit saying, why isn't it happening yet? Or why can't I do this or that? Well, there's reasons for that. So I think my then wanting to talk about Harold and my husband and put earrings on my gargoyles, I think that's a resultant of that. I also have this thing about these little bitty lamps that look like chandeliers. They're cheap and they're fun. And every now and then I have to get the whatever smudges off of them. So that's another project that I do. And it's silly and it's kind of useless, but I'm connecting with what? My inner child. So when you talk to your children about this, your inner child is talking to theirs, and it can be a joyful thing. You saw a fairy, where'd you see it? And they might have great description of where the fairy is. I think you experienced that. Didn't you do that? One of your kids found an area where y'all are where he found a portal or something. You spoke of that.
Yeah, he had a dream about fairies. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. And I would pay attention to that. A lot of times dreams is just sludge leaving our system and it's stress. But a lot of times we are spending time in the astral realm with other beings.
Yeah. And that's a reminder that we're always trying to rush into something that isn't happening yet and not noticing what is actually right in front of us. And I think maybe that slowing down and that calm is what allows us to see all those different levels.
It can be difficult for adults because we work hard at things, and when so called things are not happening as fast as we think, we can get upset. Now, that kind of impatience is you're seeing the future and it's not now. But this agreement we have with Earth, you come to Earth, you have the five physical senses, you have your intuitive senses, but you also deal with this illusory thing that is quite real here called time. And it's real because if you have an appointment at 2 and you show up at 4, you miss the appointment. So it's agreements. And we do have agreements about time and space.
We do. And I think a lot of our problems come from when we forget about those agreements. Like we're always trying to rush things and it makes us crazy. For me, it's cold, it's winter, and I'm tired of winter. But painting flowers on the snow isn't going to make spring happen any sooner.
It's not. Darn. Thought I'd try that. That's a pretty good idea, actually.